Hello everybody, welcome back to the Forest Job. After yesterday's heroics, and if you've not seen yesterday's performance yet, do feel free to go back and watch that one. We are returning to the Premier League to take on Norwich City at the City Ground, the home of the Premier League champions. Let's get straight into the game today, and since we no longer have anything to worry about as far as winning points to win the championship, we're going to mix things up a little bit. We're going to give some of the fringe players a chance to impress, and that is going to include the likes of Harrington and Hadji, Cosgrove, and Gustavo Asuncao. Cosgrove will more than likely leave in the summer. The reason for that being we have agreed the £17 million signing of an Italian target man by the name of Pellegrini. I haven't looked into what his real life name is yet. His first name, I should say. But he is coming into the team in the summer, and he's just going to make us that little bit stronger. I love Cosgrove, but unfortunately he doesn't want to stay at the club. He hasn't played enough, and as a result, I'm going to have to allow him to move on. I'm going to play Victor Malejo as a support striker today and see how he does there. Yuri Ribeiro can come out, and Nori can come in for him. And what else can we do? It's a very, very good question. I think we'll give Hernandez a complete rest so that we can bring Hugma on. And actually, Hugma can start ahead of Salisu on the left-hand side of the defence. Why don't we give Bremer a game as well, actually? We'll have Worrell on the bench so that we don't leave our club captain hanging. There we go. So that's going to be the lineup. Actually, should we... Let's go mad. Let's go mad. Let's have Harrington in the middle of the park. He's only rated at 68 there, but I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be fine. Ratings aren't the be-all, end-all. That's one thing that you should be aware of. If you were to play Cristiano Ronaldo, this is something I think Spoonie Pizzas may have said in one of his videos. But if you were to take Cristiano Ronaldo and play him in a right midfield position, somewhere where he's not registered as being a comfortable player, he's still going to be as good a player as he would be on the left wing. The difference is that his stats are not necessarily suited to winning the ball in midfield areas. But everything else is just fine. So knowing the type of player that Harrington is, knowing that he's a good ball carrier, he's a solid tackler, I think he'll be fine in central midfield, despite the fact that the AI has assigned him this arbitrary score of 68. I think he'll be fine. So here we go. We're at the City Ground. The game is about to start. You can see the camera zooming in on a lot of players who would otherwise not necessarily be regulars in the side. And the first four players to touch the ball are all non-regular players. So we'll see how things go for us here as Zeyfouk brings the ball forward, plays it centrally to Harrington. Here's Wilson. Out to Ait Nouri. Harrington again. Looked for the through ball to Hadji, couldn't quite find him. Asuncao's header a little bit wayward. Norwich have the ball back. Sis to Max Aarons. Long ball forward. Bremer wins the header, and I think it's going to make its way out for a corner. Of course, we don't have the electric pace of Hernandez or Nketiah up front today, so it changes the way that we play just ever so slightly. But to be fair, Arcas has scored so many for us in that attacking third this season that perhaps the lack of a out-and-out pacey striker is not going to be as harmful as we may otherwise believe. Asuncao here. Ball's played a little bit wide for him, but he picks it up. Now Norrie into Harry Wilson. Long one looking for Cosgrove, couldn't quite find him. Norrie, Cosgrove, it's 1-0. And of course, it was Cosgrove who scored with his head. We're starting to really find our range where it comes to balls into the box, and centering targets is helping massively as well, of course. But the height and range and power of Cosgrove in the air really coming to the fore there. Lovely cross from Norrie, who sooner or later is going to become our first choice left back. And Cosgrove showing him exactly what he thinks of his boot. It's magic. So 1-0, 14 minutes into the game here, and a heavily rotated Nottingham Forest side showing the quality that this squad really does have in depth. Victor Malejo hasn't really had a touch of the ball yet. He's more often than not used as a wide man. He's being given a chance as a more central attacking force today. The right-hand side of a front two, which of course allows him to cut in on his left foot. Oh my goodness. What? So I gave it at most 25-30% power, and instead of passing it directly to the man that was right next to him, the AI has decided in its infinite wisdom that what I wanted to do was play it halfway across the pitch. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Here's Gerardo into Dowell. Forward into Adam Ida, who's taken it really well and is very unfortunate not to have gotten something more out of that chance. Asun Sao. Harrington. Hi, Norrie. Harrington. Sifuk. Well, it's broken down. I'm already identifying slight issues with the tactic and the players that I'm using in those particular roles. For a start, I don't think Malejo is anywhere near comfortable in that central striking role, or in that, I should say, support striker role. Wilson's looking to get onto the ball here. He wins it back, plays it into the middle, and somehow it bobbles clear of any attacking player, and Norwich have gotten away with it. Harrington completely missing his swing. He's playing like a golfer. That's a good take by Newell, who, thinking about it, is another player that I probably should have rotated. Get a proper look at Heaton. One over the top for Malejo. He may get onto this, you know. Target does a really, really good job. Clears it out for a throw-in. I'm actually going to... I don't think support striker is really benefiting Malejo, so I'm going to play him as a centre-forward. I'm going to push him up level with Cosgrove, if not slightly higher. And we'll just see if that does anything for him. But there is a slight lack of fluency in this Forest side at the moment. You can understand that. It's a lot of players who haven't necessarily played a lot of minutes this season, and certainly haven't played together very often. Gerardo. Hadji coming out to meet him. That was an awful pass by Harrington. Absolutely atrocious. I've got an idea for something else that we might try in the second half. But at half-time, it's 1-0. I'm fairly pleased with the performance. Cosgrove, of course, the difference between the two sides. That towering header at the near post, giving us the lead. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw Harrington onto the right wing and play Hadji as a central midfielder. We're very much aware of the fact that Hadji can play as an attacking midfielder behind the front two. I want to see him as a central midfielder. His ball winning will let him down, absolutely no doubt. But I'm more interested in what he can do from an attacking point of view and as a linchpin. Because at the moment, when Camavinga is not available for us as the central midfielder, we're moving Arcas into that area. And that is denying us Arcas's input in the final third as the support striker. So we're just looking to try other things and see whether or not we have options within the squad already that could do it for us, or whether we need to maybe invest in another central midfielder. Cosgrove into Vallejo, can't quite connect the pass. It was a good pass though for a player, and we'll have a look at Cosgrove's stats soon, but I'm fairly aware of his inability to pass the ball. Because in looking for a replacement for Cosgrove, one of the things that I've had to do is have a look at what he can and can't do and try to find someone that at the very least can match up, and in the case of the player that we've bought, Pellegrini, can actually improve upon. Murray, Cosgrove. That's a shame. Nice overlap, but unfortunately the pass just cut out by the defender at the last second. I'm sure some people in the comments are going to be shouting at their screen. What about Carlos Tevez? You've got him. He can play support striker. It might actually be his preferred role. And yes, that's very true. But I don't know. We've talked about the fact that I don't necessarily want to rely on youth team players that are just straight up regens of pre-existing players. And I will absolutely spam the hell out of the youth team as far as selling them on to make a massive profit. But Carlos Tevez being in the team, it just doesn't quite sit right. So I'm thinking about selling him on. I've had an offer from one of the Japanese teams for 37 million. As we see Harrington doing exactly what I was talking about, winning the ball and then losing it quite magnificently, almost immediately. I might take them up on it and look to bring someone in that can play support striker. Or maybe we just stick with Arcas and otherwise play with a big man, little man combination of Pellegrini and one of the other strikers. I'm not quite sure yet. We're going to evaluate our options. One thing I absolutely am sure of is that Arcas is going to remain at the team. There's no way we're selling him. It doesn't matter how much anyone offers. And he's going to be an integral part of the team next season as we make a run at the Premier League again, as well as the Champions League. Here's Nori. Wilson. Nori again on the overlap. Crossed into the box. Cosgrove looking for it, couldn't quite get there. And I think I've seen enough of Victor Vallejo at this point We're going to go with Adam Hloshek can play as a striker. I'd be interested to see what he can do. Huma, I didn't realise was on a red arrow, but we're going to allow him to continue to play. Who else do we have on the bench that doesn't play very often? Frimpong. Well, Frimpong doesn't play too often, but he had a good game last time. I'm not going to overuse him. Really, there's no one else on the bench that we don't use very often, so it's a case of just bringing on players to make us more attacking. Camavinga can come on for Hadji. And I think that's going to do it, actually. We'll keep Harrington out wide on the right. See slightly more of what he can do for us in that position. He's a serviceable player, but I think that Harrington may be coming towards the end of his time with Nottingham Forest as well. He takes up squad space, he takes up funds that could otherwise be used for wages of another player. And looking at him, I just don't think he's ever really going to develop into anything more than a well-rounded squad player. And that being the case, it might be time to allow him to move elsewhere. It's good movement from Cosgrove. Out wide to Wilson, who unfortunately just runs into the challenge and loses the ball. Here's Ida. Gerardo. Inside to Dowell. Lobbed over the top, but easily dealt with. Hadji with a blind ball, which Harrington might just get to. No, not quite. See, he's not the paciest. He's not got the best passing. He's not got the best ball winning. He can finish. That's one thing he can do from an attacking midfield position. He arrives late in the box, has brilliant attacking instincts, but I'm just not sure that he's a player that really we should be hanging on to when there are other things that we could do with that place in the squad and with that money that we would save on wages. There we go. Sorry, this was less of a commentary and more of a... well, that's an interesting reaction to a 1-0 loss. Norwich City obviously hearing of results elsewhere, which have led to their survival in the Premier League. What an absolutely bizarre reaction to losing 1-0. It's almost like the day that Blackburn Rovers won the Premier League, if anyone remembers that way back in the day. I really am starting to age myself now. I believe they lost on the day, but somehow still managed to win the Premier League title, or the Premiership as it was called then. But yeah, sorry, this wasn't really a commentary. It was more of a stream of consciousness, my thoughts and feelings about building the squad for next season. But yeah, solid performance. 1-0. Ait Nouri having a brilliant game today, as did Cosgrove. It will be a shame to see Sam Cosgrove leave, considering the goals that he's come up with and the cost. He was about £700,000, if you remember, when we signed him, and we've had to spend 17 million to replace him. So it just goes to show just how valuable he's been to us as a player, despite the fact that he hasn't got as much playing time as he would have preferred. We now sit on 85 points, 9 points clear of Chelsea in second place. Manchester United slipping up and dropping to third. Liverpool could have just about managed to eclipse Manchester City on the last day of the season if results go their way. In fact, if the results go their way, they could actually end up third, which for a team that were in freefall for some time, is quite the achievement. Right, so there we go. That's the end of the game for today. Before we leave, I will just have a quick look at Cosgrove, as I was talking about. Just to have a look at his stats. You see here that his passing stats are absolutely atrocious. Low pass of 66, lofted pass of 60. Somehow he's able to play absolutely blinding through balls. I have no idea how he's able to link up so well, but his offensive awareness, of course, is part of that. But his passing, he constantly overachieves where it comes to his passing. It's difficult to find a player who has this balance of physical contact and balance, no pun intended, as well as good heading and good finishing. Cosgrove has it. He absolutely has it. Ball winning was never really his thing, but his ability to keep hold of the ball is in no small part down to physical contact and balance. Ball control of 71 isn't the worst, but certainly it could be better. Tight possession is slightly higher, and again that contributes to him being able to control the ball well. Remember, 75 is essentially the same as being a 15 out of 20 on Football Manager, so it's a decent score. Now, shall we have a quick look before we leave at Pellegrini, who will be joining us? Here he is. And you can see that he is a marked improvement in most areas. The only place he really falls down is balance. Offensive awareness is superb. His speed actually is incredible for such a big man. He's 188 centimeters tall, which I think is somewhere in the region of 6'2" or 6'3". I could be wrong. Let me know if I am. 24 years old, right-footed. He's got good jumping, good heading, good finishing. All stats that he'll grow into. Ball control and dribbling are decent. Tight possession is better than Sam Cosgrove. This is a player. This is an absolute player. He was on the transfer list. I wanted him. I got him. He's got the heading attribute. He's got the super sub attribute. So he'll be great to bring off the bench. And he'll get that stats boost as a result. He's also very good at first time shot, which is very handy because I do tend to snatch at a few of my chances from time to time. But looking at his speed, which, as we've said before, like his speed is 77 speed and acceleration of 75. That kind of puts him in the wheelhouse of our other more traditional strikers. If we look at, well, not Hernandez or, do you know what? Actually, I'm talking out my arse. He is a marked improvement speed-wise over Cosgrove. And looking at it, he's equal to someone of the ilk of Victor Malejo. His acceleration isn't quite there, but their top speed is the same. They're the same age as well, interestingly. But yeah, so I think he's a very good all-rounder. He is a target man. He's very tall. He's very big. He can win headers. He'll definitely score headers for us. But I think that he's a player that, by the looks of his stats, should be able to play on the ground. So he's not necessarily going to change the way that we play football when we bring him on. Unlike Cosgrove, who, as much as I love him, and I do love him very much, even though he is going to leave us, uh, he does change the way that we play because of his lack of pace. We have to cater for that. So a player that is coming in and a player that is leaving. But tomorrow we're going to be playing against Watford in the Premier League. It's the final game of the season. We'll see whether or not we can hit 88 points. Of course, at this point, it really doesn't matter if we do or don't. We're playing for pride, not for points. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.